Hey guys, how's it going? TJ here with Dead History, and I'm here today with Henry.
Hello.
And welcome to our next installment of our Declaration of Independence Signer series. And today we're taking a look at who, Henry?
The guy behind us, WilliamPaca, the second signer from the state of Maryland.
You got it, that's right. WilliamPaca, the second signer from the state of Maryland. We got some cool things to tell you about WilliamPaca, but first, before we do so, Henry, what do they got to do?
Hit subscribe down below, leave all your comments, questions, drop a like, and hit the bell.
That's right. Subscribe, hit it, of course. Hit the bell, the notification bell, so you can be notified when we do release a new video. And Henry, when is that?
Every single week.
Every single week, you know? And leave the comments, the questions, the likes, the thumbs up. Do it all, right?
Yes.
Tell them, do it all.
Yes.
All right. So here we go. We're going to take a look at WilliamPaca, our second signer from the state of Maryland. And this is...
Dead history.
Dead history. Hey guys, welcome back. TJ with Dead History here with Henry.
Hello.
And the guy behind us, WilliamPaca, the second signer from the state of
Maryland.
Well, second signer that we're covering, of course. We don't know if he actually was the second guy from Maryland to sign it.
We don't know.
I mean, that's pretty hard to know, but he's the second signer from the state of Maryland that we're covering.
Yes.
WilliamPaca is pretty interesting. He was a judge. He signed the Declaration of Independence. There's some, I guess, kind of controversy, or I guess maybe not exactly proven, that he has some Italian ancestry and Italian heritage. So we're going to get into all that, of course. And then WilliamPaca, there's actually a really funny story about me visiting his gravesite where I actually ended up in the backyard of somebody's house. Yeah, because I thought it was where I was supposed to be, but it wasn't. But we'll get into all that, of course, right?
Yes.
So, all right, they did the likes, subscribes, comments, questions, notification bell. They did it all. Now, Henry, what do they got to go get?
The popcorn, the pretzels, the potato chips, the soda, the gummy bears.
All of it, right?
What else?
Whatever else you want.
Yeah, whatever else you want.
That's right. Here we go. WilliamPaca, the guy behind us, second from the state of Maryland here at Dead History. Sit back.
Relax.
And enjoy. Hey guys, how's it going? TJ here with Dead History, and welcome back to our next installment of our Declaration of Independence Signer series. And today we are taking a look at the next Maryland signer, WilliamPaca. It's been a long time coming. It's been a few weeks off. I just want to first and foremost say welcome back to everyone. I do have a very special guest here with me right now. I have Mr. Henry here. Hello, Henry.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
What's new?
Nothing.
So Henry and I want to say hello, right?
Yes.
And welcome back to everyone. And that we're sorry. You know, we apologize for the long pause and the long hiatus. But 2 weeks ago, Henry and I were on vacation for a week. Henry is now up to how many presidential gravesites, Henry?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No.
25. Henry has visited 25 presidential gravesites now as of a little over a week ago. So awesome. It was a great trip, but we were on vacation for a week, as I said. I've been very busy with work, and then we're very busy with baseball. That's right. I mean, we have baseball usually on average 4, sometimes even 5 days a week, plus school for Henry and plus work for me, right?
Yep.
It's a lot. We're busy. But welcome back, everyone. We're going to try to do it every week, you know, every single week, still release the videos, but it might be every 2 weeks. It's not going to be as long as we just had. That was a long pause, but welcome back. Looking forward to it. And here we go, right, Henry?
Yup.
Next guy, what state is he from? Maryland. What's his name?
WilliamPaca.
WilliamPaca. Very good. So here we go. WilliamPaca, Maryland signer of the Declaration of Independence. Let's get into it. Here we go. Charles Willson Peale's famous portrait of William Paca, painted in 1772, says much about the man. With arm akimbo, he is very much the self-assured diplomat, lawyer, planter, and patriot. An extremely attractive, tall, yet large man, he exudes the charm, fashionable demeanor, and educated manner for which he was known. With a bust of Cicero beside him and his Annapolis garden and summer house in the background, Paca fills the 7.5-foot canvas with the presence and confidence that would help win independence for the colonies. Many years later, Peale described his famous commission in these words: "A handsome man, more than 6 feet high, of portly appearance, being well educated and accustomed to the best company. Paca was graceful in his movements and complacent to everyone. In short, his manners were of the first polish. In the early period when the people's eyes first became open to their rights, he made the first stand for the independence of the people." Because all of Paca's papers and diaries were destroyed when his house on Maryland's eastern shore burned in 1879, it is portraits like this, in paint as well as print, that we must turn to in order to learn about the character and life of William Paca. William Paca was born on October 31st of 1740 at his family's home in what is now Harford County, north of Baltimore. He was the second son of John and Elizabeth Smith Paca and the fourth generation of Pacas in Maryland. His great-grandfather Robert Paca had emigrated from England. The name Paca is also pronounced Paca. So it's actually William Paca. We know this because of a rhyme that William Paca wrote. The name was most likely a corruption of the name Peaker, Pack, or Peak, to name a few. Contemporary documents that have shown different versions of Robert Paca's last name. See that? Even I didn't know that. Obviously, I'm calling him William Paca in our introduction and for the last couple of minutes here, but it's actually pronounced Paca. So it's William Paca. Interestingly enough, there we go. Robert Paca was brought to the colonies before 1660 by a man named John Hall, who owned an estate in Anne Arundel County. To pay his transportation costs, Paca most likely indentured himself to Hall as a servant. After Hall's death, Robert Paca married his widow and thus acquired a family position and considerable property. Though Robert Paca did not die a wealthy man, he was able to put his family on the path to becoming landowners, planters, and public servants. William Paca's grandfather, Aquila Paca, Robert's son, was able to purchase land at a very reasonable price and thus began his goal of amassing extensive acreage to assure that his sons would have sizable estates and that his daughters would be able to marry well. He too married well. His wife, Martha Phillips, was the daughter of a wealthy planter who left her 1/4 of his fortune. Although Aquila Paca and Martha Phillips were married in the Anglican Church, he joined the Society of Friends, and their second son, John, William Paca's father, was raised as a Quaker. Aquila Paca was an important member of the community and held prominent positions. He served as sheriff of Baltimore County as a county justice of the peace and as a delegate in the provincial legislature, the General Assembly. John Paca, William's father, followed in his father's footsteps. He too married well, became a wealthy planter, and served the people of Baltimore County in many capacities. He was a justice of the peace, a captain in the county militia, and was elected a delegate to the lower house of the General Assembly, just like his father. His marriage to Elizabeth Smith brought him land and personal property of great value. It should also be noted that John Paca left the Quakers and returned to the Anglican Church, where he was married in 1732. John and Elizabeth Paca had 7 children, 2 boys and 5 girls, all of whom were born in the Paca house near the village of Abington in Baltimore County, the section of which later became a part of Harford County. As mentioned earlier, William Paca, who was born on October 31st of 1740, was their second son. Although there is no written documentation about William Paca's boyhood, it would have entailed the same experience as other sons of affluent planters of that era. He would have ridden horses, hunted, and explored the environs of his father's plantation. Though there is no record as to whether he went to a local school or was privately tutored, Paca would have received a traditional education with Latin and religion as the core curriculum. As the second son, William Paca would not have inherited the bulk of his father's estate. So his father made sure that he had an education and a career, in his case, in law. At age 12, William, along with his older brother, was sent to the Academy and Charity School in Philadelphia. William Paca graduated from the College of Philadelphia in 1759. Besides receiving an excellent education, Paca also graduated knowing well-connected people in Pennsylvania and Maryland. At 19 years of age, William Paca arrived in Annapolis, Maryland, ready to embark on his career in law. Annapolis was the perfect place for William Paca to begin his career, since it had become the provincial capital. He continued to study law and became the clerk for Stephen Bordley, the preeminent lawyer in the area. Paca helped found a debating society called the Forensic Club, which provided him with not only a means to develop his speaking skills, but also to develop many social and political contacts. The club debated the issues of the time, including whether democracy was a better form of government than monarchy. It was here that he also forged his friendship with Samuel Chase, who would also sign the Declaration of Independence. Paca completed his legal training at the Middle Temple in London, which added to his prestige, and in 1763 he received a Master of Arts degree from the College of Philadelphia. He was later admitted to the bar of the provincial court in 1764. William Paca had everything that was needed to launch a career in law. He had an excellent education, he had excellent mentoring, and he had excellent training in the mayor's court. But he still lacked the social status he would need to ensure that his career would be a successful one, and one that would allow him to move effortlessly into colonial politics. His position was assured when in 1763 he married Anne Mary Chew, whose nickname was Molly. The daughter of Henrietta Maria Lloyd and Samuel Chew, who died when she was an infant, Molly Chew was related to many of the prominent and wealthy families in the colony. Molly was a direct descendant of John Chew, who arrived at Jamestown in 1622 with 3 servants on the ship Charity. She was raised in the home of her stepfather, Daniel Delaney, one of the richest and most politically influential landowners in the province. The Pacas soon moved into the 5-part Georgian mansion they built in Annapolis. In 1765, WilliamPaca and Samuel Chase founded the county's Sons of Liberty and mobilized support against the Stamp Act. Paca's public popularity as a result of his involvement led him to be elected to the city's Common Council in 1766. The next year, he was elected as a delegate to the lower house, as his forefathers had been. His political career was underway, and his popularity and influence continued to grow, as did his reputation for working diligently behind the scenes, leaving others, such as Chase, to bask in the limelight. Paca spent much of his time writing letters and newspaper articles in support of independence, and he also wrote many of the speeches that Chase made. But despite being characterized as a private and reserved person, Paca could also display a bold and independent spirit. In 1773, an act expired that regulated tobacco and fees for certain officers. Paca joined other Maryland patriots in urging the governor to not continue the act. But when the governor could not be dissuaded, Paca, with his friend Samuel Chase, staged a protest. They formed a procession leading to gallows where they hanged the governor's proclamation. Afterwards, they enclosed the proclamation in a coffin, dug a grave, and buried it. To accompany the burial ceremony, guns were fired from a schooner owned by Paca. Even though he certainly preferred to be in the background writing essays and forming strategies, he could also take the lead. But Paca's life was shortly beset by tragedy. Molly Chew's death in 1774 left him grief-stricken. She most likely had died as a result of the birth of their 3rd child. The politics of the day, however, soon absorbed his attention. The oppressive Tea Act and the erosion of trust between England and the colonies led Paca to organize committees and actively oppose the Boston Port Act. In September of 1774, Paca joined the First Continental Congress when it met in Philadelphia. It was here that Paca became friends with John Adams, who referred to him as the Deliberator, and wrote to Samuel Chase on July 1st of 1776 that Paca acted generously and nobly during the convention. Paca signed the Olive Branch Petition in 1775 in the failed attempt to achieve reconciliation with Great Britain. WilliamPaca was, in the words of Benjamin Rush, beloved and respected by all who knew him and considered at all times as a sincere patriot and honest man. Paca and his fellow Marylanders worked hard to gather support throughout Maryland in support of independence. When the Maryland legislature removed the restrictions on her delegates, Paca voted for independence on July 2nd of 1776 and signed the Declaration of Independence on August 2nd. When he signed the Declaration, Paca knew that this was just the beginning of making the promise of freedom a reality for the people of America. WilliamPaca, jurist, patriot, governor of Maryland, received his early training, including classical languages, probably from tutors. He was sent to Philadelphia College at 15 and graduated with a Master of Arts in 1759. He then studied law in the office of Hammond and Hall in Annapolis. He was admitted to practice before the Mayor's Court in 1761, where Samuel Chase was a fellow student. He completed his legal training at the Middle Temple in London. Paca was admitted to the bar of the Provincial Court in 1764. In 1765, when the Stamp Act alerted the people of the colonies to their common and ever-increasing danger, Paca and others opposed its operation. He condemned every British act which asserted their right to tax the colonists without their consent, and soon became a favorite of the people because of his patriotic stands. Paca was first elected to the provincial legislature in 1768. He, with Samuel Chase and others, urged that Royal Governor Eden's proclamation regulating the fees of civil officers be rescinded. It was later recalled. Similar proclamations were becoming more frequent, and when a poll tax took effect for the support of the clergy of the Church of England only, Paca led the opposition. During this controversy concerning the poll tax in 1774, Chase, Paca, and the lawyer Thomas Johnson wrote an article in rebuttal to one signed by the Tories, Daniel Delaney and James Holliday, in defense of the tax. The article was reprinted in London, which brought the names of Paca and others into considerable prominence. While in the assembly, Paca was on the committee which directed the construction of the State House at Annapolis. He was appointed a member of the Committee of Correspondence in 1774, and in June of 1774, he was elected as a delegate to the First Continental Congress. On October 20th of 1774, Paca signed the Articles of Association and returned to Annapolis. He was one of the representatives of Annapolis in the Provincial Convention, which met from November 21st through the 24th of 1774. He signed the Olive Branch Petition on July 8th of 1775. He was a member of the Second Continental Congress from 1775 to 1779, serving on many important committees, including the Special Committee of 13 for Foreign Affairs. In general, two groups of Marylanders were identifiable by the early 1770s, an era of vigorous reaction to the poll tax supporting the Anglican clergy. Future American patriots were against it. Future Tories were for it. WilliamPaca's conspicuous opposition marked him as a coming leader in the struggle for independence. His fellow signers, Samuel Chase and Charles Carroll, could likewise have been identified as future patriots. It should be pointed out that Paca's opposition to the clergy tax stemmed from no anti-religious frame of mind. Later, as governor of his state, he advocated generous public assistance to all religious denominations. He opposed the poll tax simply because he saw it as a device for enforcing English domination of a nation he believed should be free. The earliest Pacas may have been Italian, but if so, the line of descent has long been lost in the mists of English history. The family was, in any case, well established in America by revolutionary times. Paca was typical of many of his patriot contemporaries. A successful lawyer, his means afforded him sufficient leisure for acquiring the graceful virtues of culture and civility. He served capably in the Maryland provincial legislature and in both continental congresses. Strongly influenced by the dynamic Samuel Chase, Paca early began resisting the growing assertion of British power in America. Like most of his colleagues, he was no real revolutionary, and in peaceful times would have been a notably quiet citizen. But the 1770s were not peaceful times, and when the revolution came, Paca's response was far from subdued. He, like others, equipped militia companies out of his own pocket, thus severely reducing the cash reserves with which he would face the depression that closely followed the revolution. Paca's public life included, in addition to 3 terms as governor of Maryland, service in his state's convention to ratify the federal constitution, and 10 years as a federal district judge. He died at his home, Y Hall, in Talbot County, and was buried on his land in the rolling farm country of Maryland's Eastern Shore. As a young man, William Paca was good friends with future signer Samuel Bacon-Faced Chase. As young law clerks in Annapolis, the two men trolled the public houses, raged about the wrongs the colonies had suffered at the hands of the British, and then, suitably tanked, hit the streets and burned various figures in effigy. Paca probably picked up the bar tab. Paca's parents were wealthy Maryland planters. They ensured that he received a proper education grounded in the classics. He studied away at Philadelphia, away at London at the prestigious Inner Temple, and eventually he returned home to practice at an Annapolis law firm. That's where he met Chase and another future signer, Thomas Stone. All 3 were studying law or clerking at Annapolis firms. Paca married a young Annapolis belle while in his 20s, but that did not end his days of carousing with Chase. Apparently 2 party animals, Chase and Paca. The 2 were inseparable and incorrigible, though Chase was more of a vocal firebrand and the quieter Paca preferred to pen devastating letters. In one public demonstration, the 2 staged a mock execution of an unpopular law that the royal governor had just passed. They inscribed the law on a sheet of paper, marched it to a mock gallows, strung it up as if they were hanging it by the neck, waited until it was dead, cut it down, lay it in a coffin, and buried it under the gibbet. A ship parked in Chesapeake Bay fired a small cannon to cap off the ceremony. Paca owned the ship, and he no doubt settled the bar tab wherever the protesters partied afterward. Later, the duo objected to a tax paid by citizens to support the Church of England. Chase's father was a clergyman, but he and Paca both thought it was wrong for the government to collect a tax that benefited a single religion. The letters and articles Paca and Chase wrote and published branded them as rebels in the eyes of the Tories and as patriots in the eyes of the Whigs. The Legal Eagles had their first big test case when a political friend was arrested and fined for refusing to pay the tax. The jury found for their client, awarded him 60 pounds in damages, and Paca and Chase were hailed as heroes. Their adversary in the courtroom was friend and fellow signer Thomas Stone. Paca gained a reputation as the leader of this band of rebels and was soon elected to both the First and Second Continental Congresses, where he remained a delegate until 1779. His memory has been sullied by the gossipy signer Benjamin Rush, who wrote that Paca was a good-tempered, worthy man with a sound understanding that he was too indolent to exercise, and hence his reputation in public life was less than his talents. To be fair to Paca, Rush was no great admirer of Chase and probably painted Paca with the same brush. But Paca never experienced any of the political scandals that dogged Chase. Even Rush had to admit that Paca was beloved and respected and considered a sincere patriot and honest man. Maryland was one of the fence-sitting colonies that almost didn't vote for independence. The Annapolis Convention, a rebel-led political body, had not authorized its 3 delegates in Philadelphia to take such an action. Paca and Thomas Stone were in Philly waiting for word from Annapolis as Congress crept closer to the vote. Chase and another signer, Charles Carroll, who had not yet been elected to Congress, were in Annapolis trying to persuade the convention to give its assent, which it finally did. When their instructions arrived, Paca and Stone voted in favor of the Lee Resolution. They were joined by a third Maryland delegate, John Rogers, who voted but left Congress before signing. Chase and Carroll were still in Maryland on July 2nd, but they signed the Declaration in August with most of the other representatives. So just a couple more things here about WilliamPaca. Of course, he was Maryland's 3rd state governor, during whose administration the Revolutionary War ended. When he was governor, we're going to get into more of that tomorrow, of course, in part 2. He was born near Abington, Abingdon, Abingdon, or Abington. I'm not really sure how it's pronounced. Then it was in Baltimore County, but now it's Harford County. Born on October 31st, 1740. We know all of that. Son of John and Elizabeth Smith Paca. He's often thought to have been of Italian ancestry, but investigation reveals that he was descended from the Paca family of Gloucestershire, Wiltshire, and Devonshire counties in England. I believe it's called Shire and not Shire. A Robert Paca had settled in Anne Arundel County as early as 1651. William's father had been a justice of the Baltimore County Court between 1746 and 1747 and 1752 to 53. So he was able to use his fortune and political position to give his son a good education both at home and nearby. Later, the elder Mr. Paca sent him to Philadelphia, where he received his degree from the College of Philadelphia, which is now the University of Pennsylvania, in 1759. Shortly after graduation, he went to Annapolis, where he began the study of law under Stephen Bordley. In 1761, he was admitted to practice before the mayor's court, and in the following year, he went abroad to complete his legal training at the Middle Temple in London. When he returned to America, he settled in Annapolis, where he was admitted to practice before the provincial court in 1763. In the decade before the American Revolution, Paca established himself in his profession in Annapolis. He became a member of the Hominy Club and acquired considerable property both in Annapolis as well as in Queen Anne's County. In May of 1763, he married Mary Lloyd Chew, the daughter of Samuel and Henrietta Marie Lloyd Chew, who had a very considerable fortune. She did die in January of 1774. In December of 1767, Paca was elected a member of the House of Delegates from Annapolis, succeeding Samuel Chase. And when the Assembly organized in May of 1768, he very shortly became a leader of the Popular Party. He was a member of the legislature continuously until 1774, during which time he was a member of the Lottery Committee, as well as the Committee on Criminal Laws. Paca also served as a member of the Committee on Grievances and Courts of Justice and the Committee to authorize the creation of Harford County. He was in addition a trustee for building St. Anne's Church in Annapolis and one of the superintendents to supervise the building of a new state house in Annapolis. With the approach of the war, Paca became more and more an opponent of the mother country and a leader in the patriot cause. In June of 1774, he was appointed together with Matthew Tilghman, Thomas Johnson, Robert Goldsborough, and Samuel Chase as deputies to attend a general conference of the Congress of the Colonies, at which they were instructed to effect one general plan of conduct operating on the commercial connection of the colonies with the mother country for the relief of Boston and the preservation of American liberty. He was also a member of the Committee of Correspondence and the Council of Safety, and after his election to the First Continental Congress in 1774, he left for Philadelphia, and while there, he married a Lavina whose last name is unknown. She apparently died shortly thereafter. For in 1777, he married Anne Harrison. He represented Maryland in the Continental Congress between 1774 and 1779, serving on several important committees, and after Maryland had removed restrictions placed on her delegates in 1776, he voted for and signed the Declaration of Independence. William Paca, lawyer and politician, born on October 31st, 1740, at his father's plantation on the Bush River near Abington in Baltimore County, Maryland, the third child and second son of John Paca, planter, and his wife Elizabeth Smith. Both of his parents were natives of Maryland and of English descent. In addition, his older brother Aquila Paca had 5 sisters. Age 11, Paca and Aquila, his brother, were sent to Philadelphia Academy and Charity School in 1752. Beginning in 1756, Paca continued his education at the College of Philadelphia, where he received a BA degree, bachelor's degree, in May of 1759. 3 years later, he collected a master's degree, available upon request to graduates in good standing without requirement of further study. In the late spring or early summer of 1759, Paca took up residence in Annapolis. We know all of this, of course. He began his law career in 1761, qualifying as an attorney in both several county courts and more prestigious provincial courts. In addition to a successful law practice, he solidified his position among the Maryland gentry by his marriage. And there actually is a marker. It is, to be exact, it's in the Abington area of Maryland, which is in Harford County. It's right near the Bush River. It's a historical marker that says Old Post Road, established in 1666. Governor William Paca, signer of the Declaration of Independence, born on October 31st, 1740, on Chilbury Hall Farm, 1¼ miles south of here. And yeah, so just so everyone's clear. So also, he was born at Chilbury Hall. That was his father's farm and plantation there in Abington, Maryland. So another little interesting fact about the name of the plantation and farm that he was born at. So that's pretty much it. We're going to kind of end this part 1 here. Part 2 tomorrow, of course, we're going to take a look at the time right after the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and then the life and legacy and death of WilliamPaca tomorrow in part 2. Now, I've never actually gone and seen that roadside marker where it says where his birthplace was. I've never seen that roadside marker, so any pictures you see of that are all stock photos. I've also actually, believe it or not, when I've been in Annapolis, Maryland, I've never visited WilliamPaca's house there, which is crazy. So I'll save those photos for tomorrow in part 2, but those will be stock photos as well. Now, where his gravesite is, I've actually been there a couple of times, and there's actually a funny story regarding his gravesite that I'll tell you guys tomorrow in part 2. But we'll get into all that, of course, like I said, tomorrow. So, there you go. The early life, childhood, early education, political rise of WilliamPaca of Maryland, another Declaration signer. Hope you enjoyed this part 1. No bonus footage for part 1. There'll be some tomorrow for part 2. So stay tuned for part 2 tomorrow as we take a look at the conclusion of WilliamPaca. Thanks so much, guys, for everything. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for sticking with us, all the support, everything. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed this part 1. We'll see you tomorrow for part 2. Bye-bye now, guys.